Ah, well, so it appears that I will be managing a small crisis here with the Udemy classes. The class that we were doing the first few sections in, 1 through 6, um, was not what it turned out to be. The actual name of the class was DaVinci 2023, not so much. So when I got on to section 7, something didn't look right. I was missing bits, pieces from down low here. I was missing the cut page. And then I got to looking over, and lo and behold, it says DaVinci Resolve 15. So that's not going to do me any good. So what I have done is I have picked another class that picks up pretty much one or this left off here, where we'll be moving on to the edit page via the media page. It's going to go through and give us a couple of quick pointers on how to set up the media page, which is good because the other one didn't have that in it. And I'll be relieved to get that going and get us back up to date. It took an afternoon to kind of recover from this, but I think we will remain on schedule and just fine. All right. Well, thanks for your patience. We'll see you soon. All right. Welcome back here to our successful transfer over to our new class that's actually up to date. Let me show you a little bit about what's going on here. So if you ever wonder what class we're in, it's always up here above what's over happening. And I try to, when I'm going through the list, to make sure that you see that. This quick section will be session 4, and it's all about the media pool page and how to manipulate and some quick tips and tricks on how to use that. So let's get into that right now. I'm going to take my face out of here because there's some uh, important things that we need to be able to see down here in this corner. Down here in this corner. So let's get after it here. So let's go through our list here real quick. Introduction to the media page. We're going to bring some media in and show you how to do it. There was a difference between this and a P, or this and a Mac. There was some very big difference on how you bring things in. So this being a PC, I'm going to do things a little bit backwards, but it'll all wind up being super organized and backed up. And we're going to show you how to do restore backups, do backups, and a bunch of other neat little things here. So let's get after it. All right, so we're in the cut page that we developed in this class program just to make sure that I covered everything that we had covered in the past in that other program. We have, and I'm satisfied with it. This is also one that kind of builds on itself, so we may need some of these cuts and stuff that have already been made here just to see and make sure that we did things correctly or referencing it. So let's get out of this and get after it here. I'm talking too much. So let's create a new project. So our main focus is going to be on the edit page down here. So let's call it, right click, new project. Let's just call it edit page, ED. Okay, nothing to it. We say create, poof, we got an edit page there. Come back down to our project navigator. Yep, see, we've got a page here. So we'll close that off. And then immediately you notice there's nothing here, okay? And while you can bring stuff in through the edit page, that's the media pool page is the one that we're really after here. Because there's a lot of nice stuff that you can do for organization. So unfortunately for a PC, you have to set up something in the preferences. So let's go do that now. So we're going to DaVinci Resolve down to preferences, hit system, hit media storage, and I just have the root directory in here now because I wanted to show you, yes, we can take this out. We highlight it and remove it. Now, if you try to save this, it's going to give you an error. So let's go by that error, and now we have to add something. That error says that you have to have something saved. It needs something. And so where I've done is I've hidden all my stuff here on the desktop. Okay, and that's pinned. And then in this little area down here, uh, I've hidden all my stuff named after the class, MGD2085 videos. So let's select that folder. That brings us here and it gives us the path to that, and then everything that's included in that path. So we'll come down and we'll say save, and what else can we do with this while we're here? Proxy subfolders and media locations, probably a good idea. Use proxy settings. Eh, let's just go ahead and do the proxy settings like it's got it preset for now. We may have to come back to that. So we say save, preferences updated, boom. And now you'll notice that that path that we just did is up here. Here's the main path of this shows the whole hard drive and shows that only 8% of this 4 terabyte hard drive on my laptop, only 8% of it's used now. Very handy. We'll get into why that's handy in a little bit here. Let's not get off track. So let's go here. We can click on this, and these are the 3 other videos of sections that I've already done today and that are in my class folder. Also in my class folder is all the assets for this class. So in order to make this a set of bins, not smart bins, but just regular bins, I'm going to highlight this and grab it and drag it down underneath the master folder here. And then look what happens when I release my finger on that. It says, do I want to keep all the frame rates the same? Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be doing any slow-mo. If not, it's already part of the thing. So, oh my gosh, look at what it did here. It created a file structure with everything already in its bins. Media files, I don't know if we missed something there. Probably not. Uh, media files to start up. Yeah, remember we did that in that last cut. There's all the files for that. More stuff for our assignment that we did last to show that we caught up here properly with the other things. Yeah, everything's there. I think there's even some music somewhere. Yep. So we are set. We know where everything is, and we can roll that up out of the way and make that nice and handy. Let's come down here to something familiar. We'll just say startup, and we'll give you the kind of quick tour here. So these guys down here show just like they did in the cut page where you can see a preview of it, and just by scrubbing across it, you can play the preview real quick. Also, like the cut page, you can highlight it and it will stay up here. And it will also, when you do that, it'll bring up all of the details of this clip, which I think can be very handy. It'll tell you how long the clip is. It's 15 seconds, 11 frames. What its codec is, frames per second, how big the sound is, excuse me, and so on and so forth. We can also come down here and view these clips differently. If we want to roll this up, by the way, we can come up here and just say and get our whole screen down here. I don't think that's really necessary for a couple, but if you're looking at a lot of clips, and you're going to have to make them small to look at a lot of clips with that little bar right there, having this out of the way is probably a very good thing. So a couple ways to look at them. You can look at them again with all their metadata on it. Look at it on my favorite way, which is just, okay, this I remember. It spurs the memory quickly. Or you can look at it as a list, and you can change these guys around. The duration time, when it starts, when it ends, obviously. Look down the list, frames per second, make sure everything's the same resolution. If it is different, then there are some things to be done editing-wise to square that away. What else we got over here? Oh yes, we can divide this into different ways of looking at things. So I can look at a certain file up here and a certain file down here, not necessarily the same ones. Let's go ahead and make both of these something we can recognize quickly, and realizing that we're on 2 different in two different files here, whether we're comparing them or just looking for them, or we're just bringing those two different files in at the same time. Different ways we can do that. We can look at them side by side, or top and bottom like we just were, or just plain old back to one at a time, keeping things nice and simple. All right, so what's next here? Next is, so we've made a bunch of bins, and that should look kind of familiar. Media files, more stuff, music, startup. Yep, that's everything that's down here. So let's just roll that up for a second. And here's a cool thing that I really liked. Smart bins. If I can see how I remember to use this. So anywhere on the smart bin, once again, our right click. Good things happen in DaVinci Resolve when we right click. And let's add a smart bin. Now, Smart Bin is a cool way of looking things up and organizing stuff. So let's call this one Slow-Mo. And we have three ways of identifying files. Now, you'll notice that when I clicked on Smart Bins, it brought up everything. So in this list here, underneath of it is every bit of media that's in this master file right now. So if we click on this, we can look through media pool properties, the clip details, shot and scene, what kind of camera it was shot with, if it's in the metadata. Basically, all these things here are most likely in the metadata. So also, some of the things we may be looking for may be in the file name. There's different ways and names, in frames, out frames, real names. Mostly you're going to see the file name used most of anything. Only when you get into a big project are you going to have clip names. That may be a reoccurring thing. And how it contains, is it going to contain the whole word or series of word, or do we want it to be everything but a certain word? You get the idea here. Is a word, ends with, begins with. So we're going to leave these three things the same way, and we're going to look up anything that's slow motion. So I'm going to use the word slow, S-L-O-W, dink. And I'm going to come down here to create. And lo and behold, down in the Smart Bin here, we have a slow-mo folder. So that everything in this folder, this folder, this folder, this folder, has something to do with slow motion. So that's kind of cool. Now, along those lines here, we can go back up to our DaVinci Resolve down in the preferences. You probably won't do this more than once. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, maybe it's under user. Yes, user editing. So in our preferences folder, we have both a system preferences and me, the user, and my specific preferences. And so we want to say Smart Bin for timelines. Click on that, come down here and say save, and you'll see that a timelines thing has come onto here. We haven't made any timelines yet over in the edit folder or the cut folder, or the cut page with the edit page. But had they would have come up here. If I had clicked on timelines, they'd have come up here. And a slick way to keep track of everything and remove them from all the other stuff where you don't want to see them and put them in one place is to come down here and make a new bin, and we'll call that new bin timelines. And as time goes on, we'll reference back to that just to check it out and see how handy that really is. All right, where are we at? Let's go back over here and look and see if we've missed anything. Yes, importing, exporting project, smart folder. Yes, we did that. Yeah, okay. So let's go back over here to our little house. So we can export a project. Say, let's highlight export or the cut page, and we're going to export that out to just the old desktop here and say save to the desktop. Now I already did this once because I've reshot this video more than a couple of times. And do I want to say that exists? Yes. Is it going to ask me if I want it overwritten? It didn't, but it did override it. If I want to bring it back, I just say import. I'll come back here to the cut page. Important to note, this is just the project file. This is not any of its assets. This is not the footage. This is not the music. This is anything. Anyway, we come and highlight that, say open, and brings it back in the form of a renamed file called copy of cut page. This might be handy for more than one copy of this. Good question. I don't know what that's going to be handy for. Maybe a way of organizing things later. Anyway, well, I'm sure it will come up. So let's go back over here to our edit page, down to the house again, and get rid of this just for the sake of cleanliness. So once again, we right click on it, come down, say delete, delete, and we're back to our cleanly state of affairs. And the last thing here is that we're going to do today. Let's close this out. Now, in the beginning of things, and the other program as well as this one, the other class programming, it recommended that we make some backups. So I got to find this here real quick. Where did we make our backups? Are they under users? No. Project settings. All right, I'm going to pause this and go find that. I'll be right back. I passed right over it. So user, project save and load. I don't know why that didn't register with me. So we've already done this. We clicked on live save, and then we clicked on project backups. Now, since I'm saving mine to a cloud drive, if you notice the path is right here. So my main drive to the name of my computer, OneDrive, desktop, resolve project backups. And then this happens while I'm working every 2 minutes, every 2 hours, and then again every 2 days. You never can be too safe. There's a lot of effort that goes into editing. Not to do this is just absolutely foolish. So let's click on save and then get out of this and go see where they live. So I'm just going to drop those out here for a second, and I'm going to come and bring my folder settings in here, come up to my OneDrive, down to my desktop icon, and then sure enough, there it is, Resolve Project Backups. And it has backed up a couple of these here just recently. It's now 12:08 according to my clock. It just did it a couple minutes ago. Maybe it's 12:06. It is. And it just backed one up, and it has a hexadecimal number that goes with that. So let's get out of here. Bring that back in, just so we can keep track of where we are. And bring that back in. And come over here to Startup. Say this is the one we were working on. We can right-click here, and where did it go? Okay, so I think I figured this out. So we're back here in the navigation page. So over here under cut page, we give that a right click, and we can come down here and say restore project archive, project backups. Let's click on project backups. And there's the two files that we just found a minute ago. Okay, so the difference between that one we just did and these here, when I click on the one that happened, let's open that up a little bit, at 11:39, when I click on this and I say load, and I click on this and say okay, a little tentative about this, I'm sorry about that. Let's close that, sorry, don't know why I keep doing that. So it brought up a full copy, assets, music, everything, project file, all set and ready to restart wherever it is that Windows has left you in the lurch. Again, we can go back over here to our edit page, and for the sake of cleanliness, we'll give this a right click and come down here and say delete and delete. And the last thing here, there's a couple of things to note that when we're playing back videos, sometimes it gets choppy when they're big. They're MP4s that you've brought in out of a camera, or your camera has really compressed them down. It takes the computer a while to unpack that. Now, a way that you can do that is you can come down here and say from the memory cache, wherever it got to, render cache. That's what we're after here. The rendering cache here means that if we come down here and we tell it to smart render things, that when we start to use something, the computer is going to come in here and unpack that and get it all ready for us to go, and it's going to play relatively smoothly. Now, there's another way that you can do that too, but it's a little bit more big project oriented. So highlighting a bunch of stuff that you know you're going to use right away, and right clicking on it and come over here and say generate optimized media. And what that does is that unpacks it to a file somewhere depending upon how you have everything set up. And it's important that you know where that is, and it takes some time to go and find it. And say generate optimized media, and it will unpack everything for you. And from then on, every bit of this that you use will be all smooth sailing. In the process of warning you though, wherever that file got to, it's going to be huge. And if you don't have a very big hard drive, like this one's got a 4 terabyte SSD drive of its main drive, then you got to stay on top of that, or you're going to wind up with a full drive in a big hurry. Okay, so I think that covers pretty much everything here for section 4. Let's just go through it real quick. Introduction, yep. Importing your media from the pages in the weird way that we had to do that in Windows. But once you do that, you don't ever have to, the more you put things in that bin, it'll be there. It's not a problem. It's mapped. So as long as you keep that file organized, you're going to be all set there. How to create small bins, smart bins. Yeah, we did that because we looked up slow-mo. How to create smart bins for timelines. Yes, we did that, but we're going to show that after we've done some editing. Smart render for, yeah, we did that. Importing, exporting projects, we did that. I honestly don't know why that's important. At least certainly not as important as restoring backups. Making backups and restoring backups, and especially setting that up correctly. And then relinking media. Ah, yes, one thing we haven't talked about, relinking the media. That's because we've been organized. Sometimes when people first start, they'll come here to their navigation page, and they will have a project that they've started and that they didn't put away correctly, and they have gotten rid of some of the assets for it. And when it comes in here to the edit page, or excuse me, not the edit page, but when you come into the project, everything will be red all over the place. And how you solve that is, if you haven't, hopefully, gotten rid of your assets, everything will be red, and there will be a little link chain right about in here somewhere. And you literally just click that little link chain, and it'll come up and ask you some questions on how you'd like to find your footage, your media, whatever it is you need to make that project happen. I usually just say search the hard drive and walk away from it for a second, and it comes up. I don't know, I've never had it last more than 10 or 20 seconds. But you can look for it physically there if you want to. I don't see what the point of that is. One of the things that DaVinci does a good job is their automation is really nicely done. So let's get out of here and look at what's coming up real quick and twirl this back up. We're done with section 4. Section 5 looks like a couple of little, the menu system demystified, okay, and preferences of keyboard mapping. I don't know how much time we'll spend on these two things, but we'll certainly have a look at them in just a minute. All right, thanks, and we'll see you in the next one. All right, guys, here we are back for section 4 and 5. Let me just put everything up here for us. So yes, still video editing, DaVinci 1817. Over here, just section 5. Excuse me, it's 5 and 6 actually that this will cover. So only two sections in 4 and 5. The first of which is the menu system, demystified. I don't think there was any mystification to begin with. And the keyboard. I find that both of these weren't all that mystified to begin with. For example, when he's talking about the menu system here, he's talking about the top line of where everything seems to live, okay? And the reason I'm only touching on this is because there are from resolve over here to help, there are a couple of hundred different things that can happen, and they're all changed based when you're down here on whatever page. So in my mind, I think it's best for us to get to where we need to be when we're doing that individual lesson and address things as they come up and then make a point out of that. Now, the next thing he wanted us to look at was to go over here to resolve and come down to the keyboard and all the different things that you can get the keyboard to do and the hotkeys that you can program and this, that, and the other. Now, that does not have very much bearing on us because we use a keyboard specifically meant for this program that already has all the programming of all the things already said and done. Here, let me bring this up. Everything is already said and done and laid out and just perfectly where a guy, two hands, can get at everything here on the deluxe version of the keyboard. You saw the little version earlier. Both are very, very fast and make life so much easier to use, as I'm about to demonstrate here as we go through the next version of the editor page. Now that said, why I'm not touching on this, because it's my independent study class. This will be my workflow permanently upon opening of my business. I will keep a spare one of these keyboards. They are absolutely indispensable as far as I'm concerned. And the entire reason that I started doing business with Blackmagic Designs and DaVinci Resolve. All right, we'll see you in the next one. Thanks.